I still remember the smell of burnt coffee that morning. It was ridiculous, honestly. My day started chaotically the same way it used to years ago, back when my life was falling apart and I pretended everything was fine. I guess I've always believed that little personal flaws made me feel more human, more in control even when I wasn't. I didn't know it yet, but in just a few hours, I'd receive a call that would break open every wound I tried to hide, every memory I tried to bury. And all of it would start exactly 3 years after I thought I had finally rebuilt myself. I was standing in my kitchen, swirling the coffee that tasted like ashes, staring out the window at the quiet street where nothing exciting ever happened. I had spent the last few years creating stability, routine, quiet evenings, early mornings. A life that looked nothing like the hurricane I used to live in. People thought I was stronger now, calmer, healed. But deep down there was a part of me I never talked about. The part that still looked over my shoulder for ghosts. The part that felt like the universe had forgotten to close a chapter. The part that still wondered where he was. I don't think I ever fully accepted that my past would stay behind me. I tried, God knows I tried. New job, new apartment, new friends, therapy, journaling. I even learned how to meditate, which lasted about 4.5 days before I realized my mind was too loud to ever sit still. But even with all my efforts, there were nights I would wake up with my heart racing, remembering the sound of a door slamming or the way his footsteps dragged when he was tired. I'd shake it off, breathe deeply, and tell myself that the past could no longer hurt me. It was a nice thought, a comforting lie. It was a Friday. A normal, boring Friday that should have ended like any other, me in my sweatpants, scrolling through recipes I would never cook, watching videos of couples dancing in kitchens that were cleaner than mine. I remember laughing at one of those videos earlier in the day, thinking about how cheesy people could be when they were in love. Love used to terrify me because I knew what losing it felt like. Still, even after everything, a part of me hoped that one day I'd find someone who made the world feel soft again. I was getting ready to step into the shower when my phone started buzzing on the counter. I glanced at the screen, half expecting it to be my friend Mia sending voice notes about her latest dating disaster. But instead I saw an unknown number. I remember freezing. I don't know why. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe my soul recognized something before my mind did. There was this cold sensation that spread through my chest, as if someone had reached inside me and turned my heart upside down. I didn't answer that call. Not the first time it rang, anyway. The phone buzzed again 20 seconds later. Same number. Same tension spreading like a silent alarm through my body. I tried to tell myself it was probably a telemarketer or a wrong number, but there was a heaviness, a familiarity to that fear, like an echo from a time I didn't dare revisit. Against all logic, my hands trembled as I reached for the phone. The moment my thumb slid across the screen, my life split in two. The before and the after. Hello? Is this Jhennifer? The voice was soft, uncertain, almost apologetic. A woman's voice. I didn't recognize it, but something about her tone made my stomach twist. It was the tone people use when they're about to tell you something you don't want to hear. I felt my breath catch. Yes. Who is this? I asked, trying to sound calm, though my pulse was already thundering. There was a short pause, quiet, shaky, almost respectful. My name is Clara, she said. I'm calling about Gabriel. My heart stopped. I hadn't heard that name spoken out loud in 3 years. I hadn't even allowed myself to say it. Everything inside me froze like my soul had been yanked backward in time. Gabriel, the man who broke me in ways I didn't think were possible. The man I loved more than I loved myself. The man who left without explanation after promising me forever. 3 years without a word, without closure, without anything but the fragments he left behind. And suddenly, here was a stranger saying his name as if she had every right to. I think I whispered, "What about him?" But I barely heard my own voice. It sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Clara inhaled deeply, and something about that breath warned me this wasn't going to be simple. "I'm so sorry to do this over the phone," she said. "But you were listed as an emergency contact." And something happened. Emergency contact. My head spun. I had forgotten about that detail. Years ago, when we were still dreaming about buying a house together, he put my name on everything. Forms, documents, plans. He always said I was the only person he trusted. A cruel irony, considering how he disappeared. What happened to him? I asked, my voice tightening. There was another pause, longer this time, heavy enough that I felt it settle into my bones. Gabriel is in the hospital, she finally said. He's in critical condition, and he asked for you. I remember the world tilting, my knees weakening. I gripped the edge of the counter just to stay upright. After 3 years of silence, 3 years of unanswered questions, 3 years of trying to glue myself back together, he was asking for me? Me? Why now? Why after everything? What do you mean he asked for me? I said, almost choking on the words. Why not his family? Why not? I don't know. Someone else in his life. Clara hesitated again, and that hesitation cut deeper than the words that followed. Because, I don't think you know this, but he doesn't have many people left. My mind couldn't process anything. Emotions collided violently. Anger, fear, longing, grief, confusion. I hated him. I missed him. I wanted answers. I wanted to scream. And beneath all that chaos, something terrifying flickered inside me. Hope? A hope I thought I had buried long ago. I forced myself to breathe. What happened to him? I asked again. This time her voice cracked. There was an accident. My throat tightened. What kind of accident? A car crash, she said quietly. A really bad one. They weren't sure if he would make it. And he kept saying your name. Over and over again. I felt something shatter inside me. I didn't know if it was anger or heartbreak or the remnants of the love I pretended was gone. All I knew was that hearing that he was calling for me, after disappearing from my life without warning, felt like being ripped open all over again. Why are you with him? I asked, unable to stop myself. Who are you to him? Silence. Then, I was his neighbor. And his friend. She exhaled softly. Not anything more, in case that's what you're thinking. I didn't respond. I didn't trust my voice not to betray me. Clara continued. When the paramedics arrived, your name was the only thing he was able to say clearly, so they searched for your number. I'm sorry if this is overwhelming. I didn't know who else to call. Overwhelming wasn't the word. It felt like my chest was collapsing. The memories I tried to bury came rushing back. The nights we stayed up talking about dreams, the arguments that ended with him slamming the door, the promises he made while tracing circles on my skin, the morning I woke up and he was simply gone. No note, no explanation, just absence. Where is he? I whispered. At St. Adrian's Hospital, she replied. He's stable now, but the doctors don't know how long he'll stay conscious. If you want to see him, you should come soon. My heart hammered, torn between fury and fear, between self-preservation and the quiet pull of unfinished stories. I didn't know what I owed him, if I owed him anything at all. But the thought of him lying in a hospital bed, whispering my name, made my chest ache in ways I wasn't ready to understand. Clara said softly, I can stay with him until you arrive. But he kept asking if you'd come. What should I tell him? I closed my eyes, inhaling shakily. Part of me wanted to say no, to protect myself, to stay far away from the storm he always was. But another part, the part of me that still remembered the way he laughed or how he held my hand at red lights, whispered that some stories don't stay buried no matter how hard we try. Tell him. I began, pausing because my voice cracked. Tell him I'm on my way. The moment I hung up, everything felt surreal. My reflection in the bathroom mirror looked like someone caught between past and present, between heartbreak and instinct. I grabbed my keys with shaking hands and walked out of the apartment before I could change my mind. The world outside felt too calm for what was happening inside me. As I drove toward the hospital, my thoughts spiraled uncontrollably. 3 years. 3 years without a single word. 3 years of rebuilding myself from nothing. And now he wanted to see me? Why? For what? Apologies? Closure? A final goodbye? Traffic lights blurred as I replayed memories I had avoided for so long. The night he kissed my forehead and promised he would never hurt me. The day he came home with flowers for no reason. The silent mornings when he shut me out completely, retreating into a darkness he never explained. The fights. The laughter. The pain. The warmth. The abandonment. Part of me wanted to scream at him. Part of me wanted to hold him. And part of me didn't know what I wanted at all. When I finally pulled into the hospital parking lot, I sat in the car for a moment, trying to gather the courage to walk inside. My hands still trembled. My pulse still raced. I didn't know what waited for me behind those doors, but I knew one thing for certain. This phone call, the call that shattered the quiet, predictable life I had built, was only the beginning. And deep down, I felt the truth rising like a whisper I tried to ignore. My life wasn't perfect. It was simply paused. And he was the reason why. The hospital door slid open with a soft hiss, but the sound felt deafening to me. My pulse hammered in my ears, louder than the footsteps echoing down the sterile hallway. I'd been here before. Hospitals always brought back a strange mix of fear and nostalgia. My mother spent a lot of time in places like this, and I used to hate visiting her because every hallway looked the same. White walls pretending to be comforting, fluorescent lights that exposed every emotion you tried to hide. Back then, I never imagined I would find myself here again because of Gabriel. At the front desk, I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. I'm here for Gabriel Costa. I didn't realize until that moment how hard it was to say his name out loud again. The receptionist looked at me with a calm but knowing expression, as if she'd seen this exact scene 1,000 times. People arriving breathless, torn between hope and dread. She pointed toward the elevators. He's on the 4th floor ICU wing. Room 412. ICU. The word sent a cold tremor through me. ICU wasn't for simple injuries. ICU was for people who were hanging on by a thread. Inside the elevator, I pressed the button with shaking fingers and let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. My reflection stared back at me from the metallic surface. Wide eyes, tense jaw, a woman who looked like she had lived 1,000 lifetimes in the last hour. I tried to steady myself, reminding my body to breathe, reminding my heart not to collapse under the weight of memories. When the elevator doors opened, the scent hit me first. A mixture of medicine, antiseptic, and something that always felt like sadness. There were monitors beeping somewhere in the distance, nurses walking with purposeful urgency. Everything in the ICU felt like time moved differently here, slower but heavier, as if every second mattered. I walked until I saw her, Clara. She stood outside room 412, her gaze lowered, hands clasped together as if trying to keep herself steady. She looked younger than I expected, with soft brown hair pulled into a low ponytail and tired eyes that said she had been here for hours. When she lifted her head and saw me, she offered a small, fragile smile. You must be Jhennifer, she said softly. I nodded. Is he? She swallowed hard. He's awake. In and out, but he's been waiting for you. Her words made my heart race and drop to the floor at the same time. I didn't know what to feel, relief? Anger? Fear? Maybe all of them tangled together. Before you go in, Clara added, her voice gentle but cautious, there are some things you should know. My stomach tightened. What things? Clara hesitated, as if unsure whether she had any right to tell me. But then she said quietly, Gabriel hasn't been well for a long time. There's a lot he never told anyone. He struggled a lot these past years. I forced myself not to react, because deep down, some part of me always knew. Gabriel carried darkness the way other people carried backpacks. Close to his body, hidden but always heavy. Did he ever talk about me? I asked before I could stop myself. I hated how vulnerable the question sounded. Clara nodded slowly. More than you'd think. Not details, but he always spoke your name like it meant something he lost and hoped to find again. Those words hit harder than I wanted them to. I looked toward the closed door of room 412, feeling my pulse spike. Can I? I gestured toward the room, not trusting myself to finish the sentence. Of course, Clara said softly, stepping aside. He'll be happy to see you. I wasn't sure happy was the right word. Or ready. Or anything. But I took a deep breath, gripped the doorknob and slowly pushed it open. The world inside that room felt smaller, quieter, dimly lit by a single lamp beside the bed. And there he was, Gabriel. His eyes were closed, his breathing shallow but steady. His face was bruised, a deep cut stitched across his forehead. His arm was in a sling, bandages wrapped around his ribs. Seeing him like that made my chest tighten painfully, not because I still loved him, but because once upon a time, I knew that face better than my own reflection. I stepped closer, trembling. The sound of the heart monitor, steady, rhythmic, felt like the only thing grounding me. I didn't plan to speak, but the moment I opened my mouth, the truth slipped out in a whisper. You look terrible. For a moment there was nothing. Then slowly, his eyes fluttered open. And when he saw me, his entire face softened with something fragile. Something raw. Something I hadn't seen in years. "Jen," he breathed, barely audible, but enough to shatter whatever defenses I had left. "You came." I swallowed hard, fighting the heat rising behind my eyes. "Yeah," I whispered. "I'm here." He tried to smile but winced in pain. I didn't think you'd want to see me." I crossed my arms, trying to steady myself. "I didn't. But you called for me, so here I am." His eyes glistened, guilt shimmering beneath the surface. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "For everything." I clenched my jaw, anger and sadness swirling inside me. Impossible to separate. "Don't apologize yet," I said quietly. "You don't get to vanish for 3 years and then—" He interrupted me with a weak, pained laugh. Still fiery. I missed that. I looked away, trying to breathe through the ache. I didn't want to soften. I didn't want to break open again. But standing there, seeing him so fragile, so human, so unlike the man who walked out on me, I felt everything I'd buried clawing its way back up. He closed his eyes again, breathing slowly. "I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I thought I'd destroy you." I felt my heart stop. "Gabriel, you did destroy me." His breathing faltered and a tear slipped down his cheek. "I know. And I've hated myself every day for it." I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I wanted to hear this. But he continued, voice trembling. "There's so much I wanted to tell you. Things I should have told you. But I was scared. And stubborn. And broken in ways I didn't know how to explain." He looked at me again. Eyes heavy with exhaustion but burning with unspoken truth. "And now, I don't know how much time I have to make this right." I froze. "What do you mean?" I whispered. He hesitated. Then his voice broke. "The accident wasn't the only thing. There's more. Jen, there's so much more." For a moment I couldn't respond. The room felt colder, smaller, as if the walls had moved closer without making a sound. Gabriel's words echoed in my mind, refusing to settle. "There's more." It terrified me because the part of me that remembered the way he used to look at me before shutting down, before disappearing, knew exactly what that sentence meant. It meant the truth he had been running from wasn't external. It wasn't about work or mistakes or another woman. It was something inside him. Something he had been hiding for far too long. I sat down in the chair next to his bed, my hands clasped so tightly that my knuckles turned white. "What are you talking about?" My voice came out softer than I intended. Not because I wasn't angry, but because worry wrapped itself around every syllable. Gabriel swallowed hard, as if the act of speaking required strength he barely had. "After I left, I wasn't okay. I kept telling myself you were better off without me, that I was doing you a favor. But the truth is, I was falling apart." His gaze drifted toward the ceiling, as if searching for courage in a place he couldn't reach. "I was diagnosed with a heart condition. Something genetic, something I didn't want to accept. The doctor said it would get worse if I didn't take care of myself. But I didn't care. I didn't take it seriously. I pushed everyone away. I pushed you away." The words hit me like a crash themselves. A heart condition. Something genetic. Something he had been battling alone while I spent years hating him for leaving without warning. Rage and sorrow collided painfully inside me. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice trembling despite my efforts to control it. "I loved you. You think I would have walked away from you because of that?" He closed his eyes again, a tear slipping down the side of his face. "I knew you wouldn't. That's the problem. You would have stayed. You would have sacrificed parts of your life to take care of me. I couldn't let you do that. Not when I didn't even know how much time I had." I felt myself shaking. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was the weight of all the moments that could have been different if he had trusted me, trusted us. "You should have given me the choice," I whispered. "You should have let me decide." "I know," he breathed, his voice barely holding itself together. "And it's the biggest regret of my life." I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to hold him. I wanted to rewind time and shake the younger versions of us, the ones who thought love alone could comfort every wound. But all I could do was sit there, breathing through the ache in my chest. He continued talking, his voice softer now, like a confession unraveling. The accident made it worse. The doctors said the impact strained my heart more than they expected. They don't know if... He stopped, inhaling shakily as if his lungs refused to cooperate. They don't know if I'll recover fully. Tears blurred my vision. I wiped them quickly, ashamed of how vulnerable I felt. Ashamed of how much this man still had power over my emotions even after 3 years apart. You think I came here to watch you die? I asked, my voice cracking. Is that why you called me? For a goodbye? No, Gabriel shook his head, wincing from the movement. I called you because I needed you to know the truth before it was too late. I needed you to hear from me why I left. And maybe I hoped you could forgive me. Not now. Not today. But someday. Forgiveness. The word felt heavy, foreign, as if it belonged to someone stronger than me. I leaned back in the chair, staring at him. This version of Gabriel I didn't recognize, fragile and honest and stripped of all the walls he once hid behind. My heart wasn't prepared for this. I wasn't prepared for this. Gabriel, I whispered, feeling my voice break. You ruined me. You broke my trust. And now you want forgiveness? You think it's that simple? No, he said weakly. It's not. But it's the only thing I've hoped for since the day I walked away. Something inside me snapped. Not in anger, but in a slow, painful release of everything I'd held for years. I looked at him, really looked at him. The man I once loved so deeply. The man who haunted my dreams. The man who left without fighting for us. And the man who was now asking for a piece of my heart one last time. Before I could respond, Clara reappeared at the door, quietly knocking. Her expression was grief-filled but warm, as though she understood more than she let on. I'm sorry, she murmured. The nurses need to check his vitals. It'll only take a minute. Gabriel nodded. It's okay. I'm not going anywhere. His attempt at humor made something twist painfully inside me. I stepped out of the room with Clara, wiping my face discreetly. She watched me for a moment, then spoke gently. You're stronger than you think, you know. I let out a humorless laugh. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't about feeling okay, she said. It's about showing up anyway. I leaned against the wall, my legs trembling. He should have told me. He should have trusted me. She nodded. He knows that. I think that's why he was so scared of seeing you. He knew he hurt you more than anyone ever had. The nurses left the room a few minutes later, and I walked back inside. Gabriel looked smaller somehow, his eyes tired but hopeful. That hope terrified me more than anything else, because hope meant he still believed in an us, or at least in the possibility of one. I sat down again, this time closer to him. I don't know what you expect from me, I whispered. I don't even know what I feel right now. I don't expect anything, he murmured. Just stay a little longer. And despite everything, every wound, every unanswered question, every piece of me still fractured, I nodded. Okay, I said softly. I'll stay. His eyes closed in relief, as if my presence alone was enough to ease the pain. The monitor beeped steadily beside him, and I watched his breathing slow into something deeper, calmer. I realized then that closure wasn't a moment. It wasn't a conversation. It was a process, messy and complicated and impossibly human. I didn't know what tomorrow would look like. I didn't know if I could forgive him, or if forgiving him meant reopening doors I had fought to close. But as I sat there, watching him drift into sleep, one thing became painfully clear. My story with Gabriel wasn't over. Not yet. When I left the hospital that night, the air felt different. Heavy with endings that hadn't ended and beginnings I didn't ask for. I walked to my car with shaky breath, realizing that healing wasn't linear, and love didn't follow logic. 3 years ago, I lost him without warning. Now I had him back in the most fragile way imaginable. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, or whether forgiveness would ever feel natural. But as I drove home under the quiet glow of the streetlights, one truth pulsed through me. Sometimes life breaks us, only to place us right where we're meant to begin again.